Wish to tell you why it's a good morning. So you're here and I'm here. It's green. The CO2 is doing its job, feeding this earth, feeding this planet life. There's sun above those clouds. And our water's clean. How about our native cousins? Do they have clean water? You know, those folks stuck on prisoner war camps that we call reserves. Controlled by sellout chiefs, corporate chiefs that are part of the corporate body politic, which is controlled by the legal system, legal society. That's basically how things run here. We're on the cusp of losing the free world altogether. This is not just another election. I mean, take a look at what our cousins are doing in England. They had a democratic vote, and now they're being screwed and manipulated by the legal society, by the corporate body politic. It's just, you know, and it's all, we're down to this. Either we have to stand up and be counted, each and every one of us, or just be a sellout like the state media. Thank God that we have folks on this land, within this nation, that believe in free press. You know, the ones that are being called Nazis and racists and white nationalists and on and on and on. Because they believe in free press, they actually do investigative reporting. I gotta hand it to you that that rebel media has really stepped up on investigative reporting. Wow. Wow, this is the kind of stuff you would expect to see from, you know, from the free press, which just shows me that there isn't a mainstream free press here anymore. So we're on the cusp. Like if this election, like, and I'm appealing to every man and woman that doesn't usually vote. Vote for Max. Vote PPC. I believe he's the only man that was willing to step up and put his ass on the line to save this nation. And you know, I always believe that things happen for a reason. Things happen in their own time. And I believe this is the time, because we're at the threshold of death. There's an old saying, all right? At the threshold of the doorway to success lay the bleached bones of those who laid down to rest. And we as Canadians, we as a nation, and if we're going to keep the culture, you know, the culture. Now, Canadian culture is varied depending on which part of this land that you may be standing on right now. You know, the Northwest Territories, they have quite the culture up there. The Yukon has a culture. You know, Quebec has a culture. Alberta has a culture, and that culture, I don't see why the culture of this nation that varies from place to place throughout this nation has to separate us as a people, you know, as the common good and the common goals of a free nation. I can only see the differences in our culture throughout that create the whole Canadian culture, bringing us closer together. Now, the establishment has been using, you know, and this is their agenda, but the establishment has been using our differences to separate us as a nation, as a people, as a culture. And The one thing, thankfully, that we do have is that this is a common law land. This is a land where the public service and the government serves the people. So what I'm trying to do right now is just, I like that, the one man in the wilderness yelling out, like, that's the way I feel. For years, nobody has been interested in my opinion or my voice. When I see a wrong, the mainstream agenda they just hit you down. If you point out a wrong, you were stomped down in the ground for it and discredited, rather than looking at the legitimacy of what you are trying to put to others, what you do put forth to others. Critical thinking now is pretty much unlawful with the mainstream media, with the so-called Frankenstein public servants of ours. And critical thinking should be encouraged with our young people. So yeah, we're about to be, a full UN puppet if Trudeau gets in, a full UN puppet if Singh gets in, a full UN puppet if that woman, I believe is crazy, gets in. The NDP, the idea of the NDP was about the working, the man or woman working for a living. I've noticed, like here, especially, being within this jurisdiction of British Columbia, I've seen the NDP, just all they do is they shut out you and I from our natural resources, from our right to travel. They pick on each and every individual, and they separate us, and just use the strong arm of the Gestapo to beat anybody down. I mean, they have taken away your right to access court here, guilty as soon as you're charged, with no common sense. Well, it's breaking the supreme law, the so-called supreme law of Canada, the indenture of Canada, and how Canada is supposed to operate, which is the supreme law of Canada, which is everyone is presumed innocent until found guilty, in a court of competent jurisdiction. So having some kind of communist-style board decide your fate and that you're already guilty until proven innocent, taking the right to go and access a public venue, to be able to argue, bring your point to light, why the law didn't apply in the circumstance, or what the circumstance to dealing with these policy enforcement officers. Because it's not a peace officer, you're not breaching the peace walking down the street with a beer in your hand. Okay, that's a policy enforcement, right? I'm just using that as an example, right? I don't know why we can't leave one bar, walk across the street to another bar with a beer in our hand like other states and stuff. That doesn't even make sense to me, but anyways, I'm not going to go there. We have a takeover of our nation by the United Nations, through puppet governments, and puppet media, and puppet crown schools that all work for the takeover of a nation. And with ours, it's ours, our nation. For years and years and years, they've kept us divided, and used things that are different about each one of us to get us pitted against each other. It's kind of like cockfighting or dogfighting, and that's what they do to us, and they laugh at us constantly about it. The agenda was written out, like, have you guys seen that new, the new article put out well, the PPC put a link out of a talk by an Australian woman, but Agenda 21. I mean, it's all real. I remember listening to all this stuff in the 80s, and I remember studying some of this stuff in the 80s. And it was actually really, really depressing. But nobody wanted to hear it in the 80s and early 90s. I used to tell folks, I'd say, hey, look, New World Order, it's coming. And the year I got run over by those two cars on my way home from work, that I wasn't supposed to live or survive from, well, that's, I was in the, in the communal room in the hospital, with my IVs and, walker and everything else. And I'm watching, there's George Bush Sr., welcome to New World Order. I had people phoning me in the hospital, hey, Al, New World Order, you were right. Yeah, and I don't know if we're just desensitized because all the crap, like when these people open their mouths on the mainstream media, basically most of us know it's just BS. It's just BS, and they get us fighting each other over these little insignificant points, rather than so that our mind's not on the big picture. I mean, if you want to get people off the big picture, hey, watch my left hand. Whoa! Got you with my right. And that's what they're doing to you and I. So our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren of this nation, no matter who you are, have no future as part of the free world. They have no future in rights, in inalienable and fundamental, intrinsic, absolute rights that they're endowed with by our Creator. This is all gone. This is all going to be gone the wayside. And the tricky thing is, and here's the tricky thing, you see, because we are a common law land, and the legal society is hitting us with all these legal codes, okay, and putting each man and woman into some kind of indentured legal box. All right, so you're presumed guilty until proven innocent. Okay, that's against the free world. Okay, that's not the foundation of this nation. Okay, you have to go to places like France or Russia. That over there, you're guilty in Italy, right? But not here. So when they see you, identify you as a person instead of part of mankind, then they can just put you in the box. Now, a person, or a prescribed person that you may or may not ascribe to, can fall under that category, and your body, your man, is held hostage to that person, and this is how they trick us in the courts here that are controlled by the legal society. Yeah, it's really, really depressing. So all I can say is, let's give Max a chance. Vote PPC. And, expect the worst and hope for the best.